This is an interesting story for me because I can't believe intelligent design is still in the news. But in West Virginia this week, Republican lawmakers filed a bill to push intelligent design in science classrooms, in public school science classrooms. And not just like trying to weasel their way to get intelligent design in there. I mean, they actually use the phrase intelligent design. Okay. So there is a state senator. Her name is Amy Grady. She's the one who filed this bill. And there were 7 other Republican state senators who co sponsored it with her. And I'm going to show you this bill. This is Senate Bill 280. Here we go. Senate Bill 280 and 2024 regular session. And really, the part you need to pay attention to is that it would add this highlighted bit to the current law. And you can see what it says here. Teachers in public schools, including public charter schools that include any one or more of grades kindergarten through 12, may teach intelligent design as a theory of how the universe and or humanity came to exist. They're basically saying any public school science teacher can teach intelligent design. If a kid says, how did the universe get here? How did we get here? And intelligent design would be an acceptable answer. And first of all, that bill does not define what intelligent design is. But if for those of you who are not old like me, like what you need to know about intelligent design is there's no scientific support for the idea. Back in the day, people wanted to push creationism in science class. They said we ought to teach evolution and creationism because that's, they said, like some valid way of explaining how everything came to be. God just poofed it into existence. But like it became, I forgot if it was the Supreme Court. I think it was the Supreme Court. They basically said, yeah, that's not science. That's religion. You cannot teach creationism as if it's legitimate science. So all those conservative Christians huddled in a room together and they said, what do we do now? We can't teach creationism in science class. And someone, I assume, said, what if we just called it something else? We'll call it intelligent design and say, well, maybe something created everything and poofed everything into existence. And they're like, what should we call that? Should we call it God? And they said, no, we'll just call it the designer. And that's what intelligent design is. It's not scientific. That's kind of the whole point. Just because you say something poofed us into existence doesn't make it a valid theory. Obviously, that is opposite of whatever evolution says. It is nothing more than a religious myth promoted by Christians as a way to push God into the classroom using what they believed was a plausibly legal framework, since we knew creationism wouldn't make the cut. By the way, one interesting thing about all this is that the actual law that they were trying to shove this into, I'm going to show this to you one more time here. You see it like right under Article 5, County Board of Education. It says what section of the Constitution this would be updating. Look at what else is currently in this part of the state constitution. Like, no teacher has to change a student's grade unless there's a clear and convincing evidence there was a mathematical error. And also the teacher's recommendation regarding whether a student should be promoted to the next grade level should be the main consideration in that. Like, why are we shoving this quasi-science rule into a part of the state constitution about what teachers should be doing when it comes to students' grades and stuff like that? Like, it doesn't belong here. You can tell they just wanted to stick this in anywhere they could find, and someone like must have did like a control F, find me teacher in the state constitution, and they just shoved this in there. It makes no sense at all. But okay, so that is the bill that Republicans filed in West Virginia this week. It's obviously nothing more than an attempt to make science classes worse by giving teachers leeway and legal cover to spread misinformation to students. And here's the thing, if this bill were to somehow pass, of course there would be lawsuits over this. And why would there be lawsuits? Because in 2005, this sort of thing happened, and it was taken to court, federal court. And a federal judge said, you guys, intelligent design is absolutely not science. So, no, it would be illegal, he said, to teach that intelligent design is science in a science classroom. And then intelligent design people went back in a huddle somewhere in a room, and they were like, oh no, what do we do now? And someone said, why don't we say we just want science teachers to teach the strengths and weaknesses of evolution? And that's kind of the game plan that they've been using ever since. But one thing I really love about that 2005 trial is the pro-science side was trying to tell the judge, intelligent design isn't scientific. In fact, it's just creationism by another name, which is not what the ID side was saying. So how do you prove that intelligent design is just creationism by another name? One of the best things that the science people found is that they pulled up I want to show you this. You're going to love this if you don't already know where I'm going with this. They pulled up a famous creationism textbook. It's called Of Pandas and People, okay? I'm sorry, it was called Creation Biology, and then it became Of Pandas and People. But this is the text that was in the textbook Creation Biology in 1983. Look at the last couple lines. Evolutionists think the former is correct. Creationists, because of all the evidence discussed in this book, conclude that the latter is correct. And then you could tell 3 years later they updated those last lines just to take away any sass. Evolutionists think the former is correct. Creationists accept the latter view. What happened in 1987 when that book was updated? Evolutionists think the former is correct. Creationists accept the latter view. Same idea. Pandas and people. Look at this. This is before intelligent design really became a thing. But they changed the name of the book. Evolutionists think the former is correct. Creationists accept the latter view. And then they realize, oh no, we can't teach creationism anymore. We got to do intelligent design. Look at what they did to the same textbook. They decided, I should tell you this, instead of saying intelligent design, because it wasn't really a thing yet, they said design proponent. Like the person doing the designing. Is it God? Who can say? Can't answer that question, right? But design proponent. And look at what they did in the last version of this book. Evolutionists think the former is correct. See design proponentists accept the latter view. They literally, someone had design proponents copied so they could find all the creationists and replace it with design proponents, and they did a sloppy job of it, and they literally changed it not to design proponents, but see design proponentists. Like, I believe I remember Eugenie Scott, who was leading like the National Center for Science Education. She was once giving a talk where she said, when we showed that to the federal judge who was ruling on this case, he was stoic during the entire trial, very impartial, very fair. But when they showed this piece of evidence to just show, look, it's just creationism by another name, the judge did one of these with his eyebrows, and that was it. And I believe, don't quote me on this, I believe she's like, I think we knew we won at that point. Because they're so sloppy. Again, it's not science. It's just sloppy creationists who are still trying to get creationism in the classroom. But again, my point of saying all this is that intelligent design is not science. It's creationism by another name. So here's where it gets interesting in West Virginia, because I already showed you the bill that they're trying to pass. Well, guess what? It went through, it went to the Senate Education Committee. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, West Virginia has a Senate Education Committee? Who knew? I know. But the funny thing is, Amy Grady, the senator who sponsored this bill, she actually filed the same bill last year. And what happened last year is that the Intelligent Design Bill passed through her Senate Education Committee. She chairs the Senate Education Committee. It passed. It went to the full state Senate. They passed the bill. I think it was like 26. Oh, I have it. I have it. What did they do back then? Boom, here it is. This is what happened last year. They passed that bill last year 27-6. And it went over to the state house, and the state house just sat on it. They didn't take it up for a vote. And I don't know if that's because Republicans thought they would lose, or they just didn't get around to it because they, I don't know, wanted to pass a bill to make life for trans people harder, but they didn't get around to this bill, so it didn't pass. So this year, Amy Grady filed the same bill again. This is what we're talking about now. But she is well aware, I think she has by this time heard all the complaints about her bill. So guess what? When they were in the Senate Education Committee this week, they changed the bill from saying intelligent design. Because I think someone must have told her, if you say intelligent design, it's going to be declared illegal. Someone's going to file a lawsuit. We're not going to win. This will not become a law in the long run. So they changed the bill. And here is what the bill says now. Let me see if I could share this. Here's the new version of the bill. I will remove myself from this so you could see the bottom of the screen here. No public school board, school superintendent, or school principal shall prohibit a public school classroom teacher from discussing or answering questions from students about scientific theories of how the universe and or life came to exist. So they removed intelligent design from their own bill and replaced it with, well, any teacher can just talk about any scientific theories when it comes to origins and life and not the Big Bang and stuff like that, which is interesting because if they're saying teachers can discuss scientific theories, well, now I have to ask the question, what are we doing here? And let me show you one other thing. There is a lawmaker who said he appreciated this change. His name, I kid you not, is Charles Trump. I don't think there's any relation, but look at what Charles Trump said. He addressed the committee, the Education Committee. He said his concerns about last year's version of this bill had been resolved by the committee substitute. As the chair may remember, I had some heartburn last year over a similar bill that we considered. It was identical. And ended up deciding that I would have to vote against it, Trump said. This committee substitute has addressed the concerns I had last year, and I'm happy to say that I am just now able to report support. Okay, wordy, but okay. So he's basically saying now that you've removed intelligent design from the bill and you're saying teachers can teach scientific theories, I'm on board, which is fine because this did pass out of the Senate Education Committee. But it raises an interesting question because what are we mad about anymore? Because guess what? I also think teachers should be allowed to teach scientific theories about origins and life in the classroom. And that's partly because, you all know where I'm going with this, creationism is not scientific. Intelligent design is not scientific. So I don't think they figured this out yet. I don't think Amy Grady and her Republican colleagues have figured out that they amended their own bill to negate their own bill. I don't think they figured that out yet. They wanted to push intelligent design in school, and then they amended the bill to exclude intelligent design. And that's the version of the bill that just passed through the Senate Education Committee. If that's true, I swear to God, that has to be the funniest damn thing I have heard in a really long time. And by the way, I think they had to change it because they were already getting threats of lawsuits. This is from the ACLU of West Virginia, back when the bill earlier in the week said intelligent design. We don't teach astrology in astronomy class. We don't teach alchemy in chemistry class. We won't be teaching creationism in biology class either. SB2A, allowing intelligent design in public schools, is unconstitutional. We'll see the state in court if it passes. Which is, yeah, I mean, they're right, and I think the ACLU of West Virginia would win. But again, then the Senate Education Committee changed the law, changed their own bill to take out the intelligent design part and say teachers can only teach science in science class. And everyone, I feel like the ACLU, everyone there in the office must have been like, let's just keep quiet. Let's just see how this goes. Let's not tell them anything. Let them pass this bill. Give them all the votes they want. The 3 Democrats who live in West Virginia can support it. And after it's all said and done, then we'll put out the press release. That has to be what is going to happen here. I have not yet seen a response from any of those Republicans regarding that change. Because as far as I'm concerned, they still think they are taking victory laps over getting this past the first hurdle. Can you imagine? One other thing I wanted to point out about this whole story is that when this was being discussed in the Senate Education Committee, there were actually high school students who showed up to support the intelligent design version of the bill. And this is what it said here. And I'm honestly, I'm not trying to make fun of the kids here. I'm not even going to say their names. But 2 Hurricane High School juniors promoted the bill to the panel. One of the kids, who also addressed the senators last year, said the idea came to him from a science teacher who wished he could discuss intelligent design as an option, but feared repercussions. That kid reminded them that intelligent design, is agnostic, meaning it only proposes some kind of consciousness behind the design of the universe. Yeah, that kid doesn't know what he's talking about. It could be God, or it could be a flying spaghetti monster. Which, if you're saying that with a serious face, you have to know what you're promoting is BS, right? I don't know. But again, this is before they made the change. So I go back to, do these high school students realize that this change works against what they wanted to do? By the way, if let's assume they're telling the truth. They only supported this bill because their own teacher wanted to teach intelligent design in science class, but felt like he couldn't. First of all, why the hell is that teacher teaching science? Should I be worried about the students at Hurricane High School that they're not learning proper science because they got this messed up teacher who doesn't know what science is? And like, it sounds like the law is doing its job then, because it's not permitting the science teacher to purposely lie to students by teaching them non-science as if it's real science. Like, can you imagine being a high school student and you think you're doing this good, righteous thing, and really all you're doing is embarrassing yourself to the point where your own name is in a newspaper for something that makes absolutely no sense at all? Like, that's embarrassing. That'll be more embarrassing in a few years when I hope these kids figure out what they're talking about and realize it's all BS and that the teacher was lying to them, and that they need better mentors and better adults in their lives. But for now, I don't know. But again, I think the funniest part about all this is that Republicans may have gone so far to the right, so far away from science, that they found a way to circle back to the other side, and they're now passing a bill to support science. And they haven't figured that out yet. I really hope that's true. I will follow up on this because I'm watching this. I'm watching their Facebook pages because I just want to see the jaw drop when they figure this out.